I always give away too much. It's like I've got no sense of touch.
Hey Lifer Tribe, welcome to another video, Living Life with your girl Stay. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and we are so glad that you decided to join us today. And for my returning Lifer Tribe members, hey y'all. So today I just wanted to take some time to talk to you all about loving yourself and the importance of loving yourself. I know in today's society, there are those positive messages of self-love and self-care and all of that jazz. However, I just don't know if we're hitting home with the true meaning of self-love. So many of the videos that I see that talk about self-love and self-care are surrounded by luxury and buying expensive things and going on expensive vacations and doing brunch with your girlfriends and jet setting and all of that, which is great. However, you have to love yourself first before you can truly even enjoy any of that, right? So if you don't have that true self-love, you're not going to find it on the plane headed to Dubai. If you don't have that true self-love, you're not going to find it in the mimosas and the gourmet chicken and waffles. You have to do the work to have the self-love first and then be able to enjoy those things really, truly, and deeply and authentically, because without real self-love, you're not even going to think that you're worthy or deserve those types of things. So you're going to have that stinking thinking and that negative self-talk going on in your mind the entire time, which is going to prevent you from being able to thoroughly appreciate and enjoy the experience, because it's going to be hard for you to even wrap your brain around the fact that you deserve to be there. And so that's what I kind of wanted to talk about today. And also the fact that self-care doesn't necessarily mean expensive vacations and expensive meals. Self-care can just be that time that you spend one-on-one just focusing on you and your thoughts, or that 20 minutes you decide to sleep in one morning, or, you know, just eating that ice cream cone because you've been so good and so strict with your diet for so long, and just doing something that just makes you happy. So I don't want people to think that they can't pour into themselves that way and they can't really show self-care because they're a single mom and they're on a budget and they just don't have time and all their extra money goes into their kids, so they can't do the self-love. No, you can. Self-love, self-care can be free. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. And of course, invite you guys to join my new Facebook group, which is 15 to Life, meaning 15 minutes to loving yourself first explicitly, where I just talk to women about the importance of at least taking 15 minutes a day just for you. And it's just something that I'm really passionate about, because I also believe that just like any other relationship, the relationship you have with yourself needs to be cultivated and nurtured. And especially for those of us who didn't really grow up knowing the importance of self-care and being taught the importance of self-love, or even what that meant. Like, that's something that I never even heard of until I was well into my adulthood. Like, self-love, you would think, well, of course I love myself. But when you really get down to the nitty-gritty of it all, do you? Do you really love yourself? And if you don't, how is that showing up in your relationships with other people? Because if you're constantly finding yourself in conflict, if you're not really able to maintain stable relationships, if you are always finding fault in other people, feeling like you're always misunderstood, feeling like you really don't have a connection with anyone, a lot of times that's because you lack that connection with yourself. And so you're not allowing other people to be in, or you're looking for other people to give you that self-love, that self-worth, that self-confidence that you lack within yourself. And unfortunately, you can't get it from anyone else but you. But it's also never too late. You have to first acknowledge and be open to the fact that maybe you do have some issues with yourself. Maybe there are just some things about you that you haven't quite accepted, or you feel like you have to measure up to some ideal look or some ideal way of being, and you just have to come to terms with you are who you are, and that is more than enough. And so I kind of wanted to share a little bit of my book, Running for Your Life, Love Yourself First Explicitly, a weekly devotional for today's resilient women. This was my first published writing. I'm so proud of this book. And when I tell y'all that this was just as much about and for me as it is about and for every one of y'all, I mean, that is so true. I can still pick up this book today and read different weeks in this book, and I don't even remember writing them. But what it says is exactly what I need in that moment, which lets me know that this was something that was definitely given to me by God, not only to share with other people, but to be therapeutic for me as well. I've shared with you guys in other videos that I struggled growing up with the ugly duckling syndrome. I didn't feel like I fit in my family. I didn't feel like I had the look of everyone in my family. Just a lot of things that I kind of struggled with growing up, and I wasn't truly able to embrace myself until I was older. And once I did and realized how many years I had wasted doubting myself, comparing myself to other people, wishing that ridiculous things were different about me, like wishing that my hair was straighter, wishing that my lips were smaller, which all of those things are things who make me uniquely exactly who I am, and there's nothing wrong with any of them. But for so long, I hated it. And I just realized, had I not felt like that for so many years, my life would have been so much better. And I can't blame anyone, but I can use that experience to share with other people. And whether you are the person who's feeling like that, or maybe you're the person who's making someone feel like that, it's time for it to stop. And sometimes we make people feel that way and it's not even intentional. You just make that little flippant comment that you don't really think means much. You know, if you're combing your child's hair and you're just like, oh my gosh, your hair is so difficult to deal with. That is planting a seed. So we just have to be more intentional about the words that we use and the messages that we're giving people. And so I just want to share with y'all the introduction to my book to kind of give you an idea of where I was in the past and how far I've come, and hopefully it'll be able to help you move along as well as get to know me a little better. So I say, it took me a very long time to realize my worth. When I finally did, I was 45 and wondered if it was too late. I thought maybe I had missed my time to fulfill whatever plans God had for my life. This was a bittersweet moment for me, filled with emotions ranging from excitement to despair. There I was at 45, finally trying to walk in my purpose, setting goals and living my passion, but feeling as if I was too old to truly see any of it through. How was I going to empower women and encourage them to love themselves and chase their dreams? I had wasted so many years doing the exact opposite. How was I supposed to convince these ladies that they are capable of achieving anything and tell them that God has given them everything they need to be who He created, given them everything that they need to be who He created them to be? How could I make them realize all they needed was the faith of a mustard seed and they would be granted the desires of their hearts? It had taken me almost 45 years to believe it myself. Who was I to speak about setting and achieving and realizing goals? I had left so many of mine by the wayside, unrealized, unaccomplished, untouched, plain old un. By then it dawned on me, all of the above was exactly why I needed to speak out. Everything I'd been through was exactly what God planned. I was meant to share my story, my testimony, my trials and errors with women to let them know that it is never too late. Every season in our lives brings us to a different place, but it is all in His plan. Our time is not God's time, and we cannot put limits and expiration dates on His blessings. And for these reasons, I wanted to write this devotional. And it just goes on to talk about what my desire is and what I hope to accomplish by this devotional, which is to let women know of all ages, but especially those of us who are a little more seasoned, 45 plus, who may have not gotten that message of self-love and empowerment when we were younger, to know that it is truly never too late, and to understand that the things that you have been through were not only for you. You can now share your journey. You can now share your testimonial. You can now share your experiences with other women your same age, younger than you, or even older than you, to let them know that, yeah, I've been there before. I've doubted myself. I felt bad about myself. I have put myself down, but I learned better. I changed my mindset, and you can do the same thing. And mindset is where it really all starts. I mean, you know, there are some people who are just so confident and they just believe in themselves so much, and you can just tell by the way they walk into a room that they don't care what anybody thinks about them. And I used to be the person who could look at them and be like, oh my gosh, how bold, just, you know, how courageous. But now I'm that person. I used to mull over, you know, what am I going to do with my hair? What am I going to wear? And oh, is this going to look right? I'm trying on a million different outfits. Now it's just like, okay, where do I need to be? What time? Okay, I don't have a whole lot of time for a lot of fluff and frou-frou, so they're going to get whatever stay they get today, which is absolutely fine because I'm great. And I feel like being in the room is an awesome opportunity for me and those around me, because I feel like I have value to add that is beyond any outfit, that is beyond any piece of jewelry, that is beyond any hairstyle. It is me. It is the things that I have to share. It's the experience that I have to add. It's the wisdom that I have to spread that makes me worthy of being in the room. Not what I look like, not my education, not my background, just me, the core of who I am. Stay is awesome. Stay is wonderful, and stay has value. And it's not just stay, it's every one of you as well. And don't wait to share what you have to offer this world until you're the weight that you want to be, or until you have the money to buy the jewelry and the handbags that you want, or until you're driving the car that you feel like is going to turn heads. Start sharing it now, because it's you that is going to give the message. It's you that people are going to connect to. And as much as we see all of this fluff and glitz and glamour on the internet, on television, and in magazines, that's not really what people connect to. People connect to personalities. One of the most, if not the most famous woman in the world, Oprah Winfrey, has suffered from low self-esteem, struggled with weight, struggled with accepting her looks. But people were attracted to her and drawn to her, and she became so famous because of her personality. And we saw her over decades on television struggle with her looks and her weight and all that, and we just loved her more and more for her vulnerability, for her transparency. Not because of how she looked, but because of the fact that she was able to say, I struggle with these things, and you are not alone. And we saw her and we're looking like, oh, but she's so famous and whatever, but we were connected and drawn to that personality. And so there's nothing wrong with wanting to look your best. Definitely nothing wrong with wanting to feel your best. However, just don't make that what's most important. Don't allow all of us to miss out on the greatness of who you are because you feel like you don't match up, because you feel like you're not worthy. We're waiting. We're waiting for you to share. We're waiting to connect. And that's just the message that I want to give women. And the thing is, we get so bogged down with life, work, children, spouses, family, that we just don't take that time, just one-on-one, to reflect on ourselves and think about what's really bothering me today, or what can I do for myself to make me feel good today. And it's so important because as much as we try to pour into and connect with other people, there's always going to be something lacking if we're not doing that for ourselves. And realizing that it's not selfish to want to take care of yourself first. It's actually a benefit to those around us, those we serve, those we pour into, because we want to give them the best of what we have. And if we're still struggling with self-love, especially those with daughters and nieces, how are we going to be able to empower them and show them what it is to be confident, to be secure, if we're still struggling ourselves? So you have to do the work, and that work a lot of times is in therapy. That work a lot of times is letting go of certain toxic relationships and certain toxic people who are constantly reminding you of the things that you've struggled with and the doubts that you have. It's not necessarily easy, but it's necessary to prune away whatever the toxicity is around you and to move differently. And sometimes we become so attached to those things in a negative way that we don't even realize that the very people that we surround ourselves with is what keeps us in those negative headspaces, keeps drawing us back, pulling us back to a time before, to a remember when, that we have fought like hell to get away from. But no matter how much you fight for it, if you are still surrounding yourself with that negativity, if you are still allowing those people to have access to your life, you're going to be in a battle constantly. And again, it's not easy, but once you come to terms with it and start walking in your truth and your power, you're going to realize that the peace that you receive from making those changes in life are insurmountable. And another thing that happens a lot of times is when you start moving differently and you start living differently and you start creating boundaries and you stop accepting the poor behavior, you just may encourage them to do the same. But when you're constantly allowing it and you're not changing your environment and you're not changing people's access to your life, you're actually enabling them to treat you poorly, because you will hear me say it a million times. You teach people how to treat you. And sometimes the way that lesson needs to be taught is by them getting used to your absence. So I just want you to take some time and just survey your life and filter through what things are serving you and what things are pulling you down, so that you can truly live your life, meaning love yourself first explicitly. If you want to show up as the best possible version of yourself every single day, if you want to have the best possible mindset and healthy mental health every single day, you have to take time to pour into yourself. And this is a message that you'll probably hear from me over and over again, time and time again, because it never gets old. And unfortunately, there's never a time when there's not someone out there who needs it. And maybe even those of us who have kind of overcome certain things, we need that little reminder course. We need that little shock back into reality, or just that little like, hey, we're going back there. We got to change our mindset. Maybe it's time to do some more pruning. Maybe it's time to change my environment. Maybe it's time to create some new boundaries, because I don't like the way I'm feeling right now. I don't feel like I'm putting myself first. I feel like I am being drained. I feel like I'm allowing too much negativity in. We need those reminders every once in a while, because life starts, which this is going to sound crazy, but life starts from the time that you're born. Your personality begins to be molded, shaped, created from the time that you're born. The things that you experience, the things that you hear, the environment around you. And a lot of times we're in the same type of environment and around the same people saying and doing the same thing for decades before we kind of experience a new role. A lot of us don't leave home or leave our family until we're in our early 20s. And so for so long, we've been surrounded by what we thought was the norm. And the way you feel about yourself, even though it comes from within, it still is going to start by how people respond to you in the information that you're fed. So once you decide to make this change and this shift in your mindset, it's a work in process constantly. It's no different than having crooked teeth and then getting braces. You get the braces off and your teeth are perfectly straight. However, if you want them to stay that way, you're going to have to wear a retainer every single night, because your teeth are going to want to shift back to where they were naturally comfortable being. And your teeth didn't care that they were crooked. They were just comfortable where they were. And now you have done the work to do what you needed to do to put them in a place that makes you feel good, but they're still fighting to go back to that old way. And that's what can happen with our mindset, because we were fed this information for so long and convinced that that was normal. When we realize that it's not, and we start making those changes, there's still going to be people, places, and things that trigger us to want to go back to who we used to be, which is normal. It's life. You just have to be aware of it. So when you feel that happening, when you feel those feelings rising up, when you start to react to something in a way that you don't want to react to, or a way that you don't want to behave, stop it dead in its track, put that retainer on, and keep yourself together, because it's gonna happen. We're only human and we're not perfect. So every once in a while, something is gonna try to make us go to a place that we don't want to be. So all you have to do is put that mental retainer on and say, you know what? That's not me anymore. That's not how I think anymore. That's not how I act anymore. I got caught for a couple of minutes, almost went back, but I can pivot and get back on the straight and narrow. So don't give up on yourself if you don't quite get it right away, or if you feel like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. We're all a work in progress. I am a proclaimed lifelong learner. I will always be a work in progress. Why? Because I never want to get to the point where I feel like I know everything, or get to the point where I feel like I don't want to make any changes, because once I get to that point, then what else is there for me to do? And I feel like in order to truly be able to communicate and connect with others, I have to have a journey to share, and I'm not ready for my journey to stop. So I'm going to keep myself open. I'm going to keep learning, and I'm going to keep being vulnerable and keep admitting that although I am very self-aware, I still have things that I need to address. And every once in a while, I can get caught up in a situation where I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what I do anymore. That's not how I behave anymore. So what do I need to change in my life to make sure that I'm no longer affected this way? So guys, that was a lot. And I hope that it impacted you in some way. If you are interested in picking up your copy of Running for Your Life, a weekly devotional for today's resilient women, you know you can hit me up at my website at stayhall.com. And something else I wanted to share with y'all is loving yourself first is important in every aspect of your life, even in a relationship. Like, don't get in a relationship looking for someone to complete you or give you your happiness, give you your joy. And this book, The Hallway, a weekly devotional for today's thriving couples, literally our first week of this devotional is entitled Live Your Life. Love yourself first explicitly, because before we even want couples to dive into their interactions as a couple, we wanted to make sure that we address self-love first. So the first week of this devotional is Live Your Life. Love yourself first explicitly, because without self-love, you can't truly, genuinely, and authentically and wholeheartedly love anyone else. So guys, I am going to wrap it up this time, and I hope that I was able to impact you in some sort of way to make your journey just a little bit easier. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. I love you guys to bits and pieces. If you are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and becoming a permanent part of the Lifer Tribe. We would absolutely love to have you in the family. You guys know the drills. I love you all to bits and pieces. Always be kind and love one another, but never forget to live your life. LYFE. Love yourself first explicitly. And I'll see y'all in the next one.
I always give away too much. It's like I've got no sense of touch. I'm always pouring out my heart, no little by little.